In this video, we're going to start the conversation on cognition. Specifically, we're going to be reviewing memory and looking at memory in the context of the model of the mind. We're going to start with just the first third of diagram of the model of the mind. Before we get started and work too far on memory, let's look at the definition of memory and make sure that we're all on the same page. Memory is defined as the retention of information and experience over time. Why is memory important? Memory is central to our ability to function throughout our daily life. It's also really important to our understanding of self. Remember when I asked you to post personal information about you on the introduction thread in our discussion board? That is you representing your memory and experience and understanding of yourself. Without having a memory system, we would not be able to recall any of those interesting and important facts, whether it be our dog's name or our favorite hobby. Not only does memory important in our own daily functioning, it also affects our collectiveness, our experience as a group. For example, where were you September 11th, 2001? Some of you have memories that come to mind very quickly and very easily. This represents most likely the experience of a flashbulb memory. Flashbulb memories, if you follow the analogy, is when the flashbulb goes off or a salient experience happens. It illuminates all of the experience, all of the nuances, the details, the intricacies of everything that was happening to and for you at that time. Now, flashbulb, as it illuminates the space, really makes the majority of your experiences encoded in your memory system a little bit stronger and a little bit different. For example, I have a flashbulb memory of September 11, 2001. I can tell you exactly where I was, what I was doing, much of my day that day, and different circumstances and experiences I had. And because I have that memory, especially of that date, it makes me part of a cohort. A cohort is a group of people who have a shared experience. Now, we can have a cohort be as large as the nation. We can also have a cohort be as small as a group of friends that go to summer camp together. A cohort represents a group of individuals that do have a shared experience. Now, that does not mean we have shared memories because all of us encode information differently and we pay attention to different aspects. Now, September 11th represents both a flashbulb memory and a cohort experience. However, my engagement to my husband represents just a flashbulb memory, is an example that represents both flashbulb and cohort experience. Now, I'm going to show you an example of the model of the mind. This is what we're going to be building over the next few lectures. I think I've got 3 or 4 lectures set up for it. We're going to begin on the left and work our way to the right, eventually ending up looking at retrieval and how we use that information in short-term working memory if you follow the blue arrows and how they move. Right now, though, we're going to talk about sensory input and sensory memory. Sensory memory is a very high functioning storage area. Sensory input comes in. Sensory input are our typical 5 senses that most of us think about: taste, smell, sight, hearing, and touch. And we also have other senses that are included in that as well, but we're going to focus on those 5 primary senses. The capacity in sensory memory is very, very large, and the duration that content lasts in there is about 0.3 seconds for visual information and 3 to 4 seconds for auditory information. Now, that's pretty quick. That might have been why you decided to pause and rewind while one of my explanations occurred, because maybe you didn't catch everything that was said because of our short auditory and visual information processing. The great thing about the way these slides functions is that information comes up and stays up for over 0.3 seconds, so you can reassess the information and make decisions about it. Now, we have a just mass amount of sensory information coming in at all times, and this happens automatically. We don't get to choose or filter or anything else like that. This information comes in automatically because our sensory system doesn't have a filter. When we are experiencing auditory stimuli, we don't filter it as it comes in. We filter it inside our mind when we make decisions about whether or not that information is relevant. We have 2 primary subtypes of sensory memory: iconic memory, which is visual, and echoic memory, which is auditory. Whenever I see iconic, I think eyeball. What would happen if you used your eyes? And echoic memory, I think of an echo, what we would hear auditorily. And remember, though, that the auditory stimuli does end up lasting a little bit longer. than the visual stimuli. Now, all of the sensory information is great, but remember, we have so much coming in, we actually have to pick and choose what we pay attention to and what we encode. And so that represents our second arrow on our model of actually paying attention to information. There are three kinds or three roles of attention that I'd like to discuss. One is selective attention. This is a purpose of focus. This is what allows us, when we are in a crowd of individuals, for us to focus on a singular person and our conversation with them. This is also what you experience when you are in an education environment and you are listening to somebody speaking and you have several other people speaking and being active around you. Your ability to pay attention to and single out the sensory information from that one individual is what allows for selective attention. Now, divided attention, a lot of us believe that we are good multitaskers. One of the things that I do very frequently is I will have, I pick a TV series on Netflix and I have it run while I write my lectures and grade for a semester. And my ears are half tuned to what's happening while my eyes and other parts of me are tuned to what's happening on my computer screen. But actually what is not happening is division. It's actually switching between those two attention areas. So I would be not dividing my attention, but actually switching between those things that I pay attention to. And I would just be switching very, very quickly. So our textbook does refer divided attention as multitasking, but what our more current research is suggesting is that it's not actually divided attention. It is more along the lines of switching attention and moving from one task to another task rather than doing two tasks simultaneously. The other thing that we see is that when we have too many tasks in front of us, we don't really perform 100% on either one of the tasks. Both of them suffer in our performance on those tasks when we have multiple ones in front of us. Sustained attention. This is one of the reasons why our videos try to stay short, between 5 and 8 minutes long, is in order to capture and maintain your attention and dedication to the content that's being presented. You know this as well as I do. Whenever you're sitting in a context where somebody is talking on and on and on and on about something and you've already gotten the point, you tend to wander off in your mind. Some of us might check our email, check our text messages, send a message, doodle in the margin on our paper, or maybe make a grocery list. Sustained attention is pretty difficult, but it's one of those things that we build throughout development. Younger kids have very little vigilance, and as we get older, we build that capacity for vigilance, our ability to sustain that attention. Well, if you're curious about attention and you want to try a little experiment and see what I think is a pretty interesting phenomenon that happens, check out the invisible gorilla link that I've placed in the folder under fun stuff. All right, well, till next time.